Hi, so in this video I thought I'd talk a little bit about the gearbox. So I'm using the standard gearbox from the car just to save a lot of time and hassle trying to develop my own drive system and mountings and so on. So I've interfaced the motor onto this gearbox, but I thought it might be worth just running through what's in this gearbox. It's slightly unusual. It's not a manual, it's an automatic or electric automatic. So I thought I'd talk through it, and I hope this is useful. So the gearbox itself, let's start with that back on there, is a 6-speed gearbox built by Gearbox, which is quite a common maker of gearboxes. But on the Roadster, what they've done is to design it to be electrically driven. So using an electric clutch and an electric motor to drive the barrel around to select the gears. So on it we got we've got a few main components. We got the DC motor itself, so I've already unbolted these. So the motor itself is a DC motor with an encoder on it, and that drives on the sprocket, which I'll show you a bit later on. So that's for the gear selection. We've also got a variable resistor, which effectively goes on the end of the gear selector to give feedback on the position or which gear it's in. And this is, so I believe, a sensor for speed. So this is just running on the end of a gear inside to give a speed control output, which I can make use of. So on this particular one, this is a second-hand box I bought, which I think has a few issues actually. I don't think it's running, it doesn't run that nicely. And I've also got a leak on the bottom, so I thought it's worth taking it apart and just having a look to see what's going on. So I've released all the bolts on the outside, so we can lift all those out. It's a very small light gearbox because the Smart Roadster is only a 600cc engine. Delivers, I can't remember the exact torque, but we've got about 70 brake horsepower, I think. Let's get that to sit down on the hole. Okay, it's sitting flat. I've just got the spline going through a hole in the plate. So let's see if I can separate this off. Okay, so got the gearbox apart. Was a little bit tight. Just got some pins on here. Had to just ease it off with a screwdriver. Leave it apart. And there's no gasket in here, which is probably why it was leaking. I have to sort that out. So just to talk through it a bit, I've had a bit of a look at it, and we've basically got the motor drive comes through here and picks up on that gear. That spins that gear, turns this one. This is the selector for the drive dogs that are sliding in here. So it's permanently, oh, we've got a reverse gear in there. I'm going to take the reverse gear out. I don't need it in this car. So let's see if I can lift it out. We've got needle rollers on the shaft. There we go, it's the reverse gear. Okay, so this thing here is driving fully engaged, and this is just rotating to pull in the different gear selectors. So, and on the end of this is where the resistor lives to determine, so you can see which gear this is in. Now I guess I'm not going to be able to lift this out without lifting everything out all in one go. No. So I'd have to knock that whole shaft out, which I'll do in a minute. And then here we've got the diff. So that's driving the main part of the diff there, and the cross gears must be inside that block. I had no need to take that apart at all. Right, so I managed to get a few bits out of this gearbox, but I'm not able to get that piece, that main shaft out. I think I just need the right kind of pullers, and I don't have those. So the interesting parts are the drive drum. So what that's doing, there it is. Okay, so these are the selector arms that are sitting on there. They sit into that drive drum, so it's just like a motorbike gearbox really, and these are floating around on the cam that's machined into the drum. Drum is aluminium, which is really surprising actually, and I guess they're just vertically machined into that barrel, and then the variable resistors picking right up on that end piece with the flat on it, so it's always with respect to where the cuts are made. So there are really just 3 of these that float up and down on this this arm, and that's kind of all there is to it really. So that arm sits in there. You have to kind of fight a little bit to get them one past the other. So that's the selector. There are 3 of these that sit in there, and then it was just about possible to get the diff out from under that gear. That would seem to be designed just to come out without taking that gear off, as far as I could tell. So that's the diff in there, which I guess is all right. There we are. So really there's nothing visually wrong with it. It seems to all be okay. It's just really just getting this gasket on and getting it back together. Okay, so assembly is, I need to get the arms back in there. The arms have these little sliders that are sliding in the aluminium selector, so you get those on there, but they're quite awkward to keep in place. Actually, I might take that one out. Already get this selector back in, as I've discovered trying to do it once. Best thing seems to be to tip it. Let's get this out of the way to stop them, or to keep them over to one side and stop the bits falling off. It's much better than last time actually. Yeah, simple. So what the problem was. Okay. So now the diff just drops in there. Just goes under that gear and should drop straight in. Right, so the reverse gear I'm not using, so that can stay out. Having said that, I don't want that bit of plastic to fall in that one because it's got nowhere to go. Yeah, I'm going to keep that piece out. So no reverse. That's in there. So I just need this little sub gear, which sits on there normally, but somehow you've got to keep it in there while you engage the 2 together. It's interesting. Okay, so that's broadly just loosely together. So you've got the gear drive there for the selector, which you can just about see probably through that gap. That all seems to be running okay. Yeah, just running okay. So I think they can go together. Ah, gasket. Okay, just need to pull it apart and put the gasket in. It's broadly together. Let's just get these bolts in. This will come apart again because I'm going to, once I've driven the car, I'm going to decide what gear is best, I think, and then probably take the gears out that I don't need. I might narrow it down to 2 gears, 2 good gears that I can select between, and then just drive using effectively a high and low gear. Which will be a much better thing to do, really. I don't need all 6 gears for an electric motor. You don't really need any gears for a motor theoretically, but I think because my motor isn't the most powerful motor, rather than just live with slow acceleration so that I can get the top speed I want, it's going to be much better if I have a low gear, which kind of gives me a bit of fun, and if I'm just driving around town I'll just stay in the low gear all the time and be quick off the lights, that kind of thing. And then if I'm doing more of a cruise, I can just put it into a high gear. What's not clear yet is how easy it's going to be to select those gears, because I'm effectively crashing the gearbox because I'm not going to have a clutch. So it's changing up is probably going to be okay, but changing down I'm going to have to do some kind of throttle blip or something so that I can bring it into the lower ratio and get the mesh to work. But we'll get it together, and I won't fill it with oil massively. I'll just make it run and then just see how it performs, really. So that's together. So question is, can I spin? No, if I hadn't put the motor in, I've done that manually. I'm going to take that back out again. Got the motor out and should be able to change gear. There we go, so it's in gear there now. You can feel it drop into gear actually. It's got a very definite click. Yes, okay, there was a ball in spring plunger on the side. That's what's making it index into its gear. Okay. Shame I didn't look at that when I had it open. But I did notice that there was a ball, and now I know what it's for. So when you power off this motor, you can keep it in gear and you don't need any motor, and there's no chance of it slipping into the next gear. Okay, so that's the gearbox assembled back together again. So it's ready to go back in the car. So next I'll be connecting the electric motor back onto this so you can see how that connects up. And also just probably make a manual drive actually, so I can manually change or manually rotate this. We'll see. I might do something with a motor controller on there, but I'll see how it goes. So, well, thanks for watching. I'll get this back in the car now, and hopefully you'll watch the next video, which is the motor going back onto this gearbox and the unit going back in the car. Well, thanks for watching, and see you next time.